Admiral William Carter stared out the viewport of the diplomatic vessel as Earth grew smaller in the distance, his jaw clenched tight enough to crack teeth. After 7 years of negotiating with the Galactic Confederation, humanity had finally walked away from the table. The once gleaming white walls of his quarters now felt like a prison. 7 years wasted. 7 years of fake smiles, forced handshakes with beings who had too many fingers or none at all, and endless talks that went nowhere. Carter ran his hand through his gray hair and sighed. At 58, he had hoped to see true galactic cooperation in his lifetime. That dream now seemed further away than ever. The ship hummed quietly around him as it accelerated toward the edge of the solar system. Behind them, the blue marble of Earth became just another point of light among many. Carter had been born there, had fought for it in the Mars Rebellion, and had always believed humanity's future lay in peaceful expansion among the stars. Now, he was the face of humanity's withdrawal from galactic politics. "Admiral, message from Earth Command," Lieutenant Susan Kelly announced over the intercom. "It's encrypted at the highest level. I'll take it in my quarters," he replied, his voice tired but firm. Carter walked to his desk and pressed his palm against the security scanner. The holographic message from General Olivia Martinez appeared before him, her weathered face grim. "The Security Council has unanimously approved Protocol Omega," she said without greeting. "You are to inform the Confederation representatives that Earth formally withdraws from all diplomatic engagement. Effective immediately, human space is closed to all non-human vessels. Any unauthorized entry will be considered an act of war." Carter wasn't surprised. The negotiations had been getting worse for months as the alien delegates grew more condescending with each meeting. The Araxians, with their 6 eyes and superiority complex, had demanded oversight of Earth's military development. The crystalline Vorlani had pushed for strict limits on human terraforming efforts. The insect-like Nidari had tried to restrict human expansion to just 5 systems, less than half of what humanity had already colonized, all while offering nothing in return except what they called the privilege of Confederation membership. The vote was 15-0, Martinez continued. Even the Chinese and Brazilian representatives agreed. "We've had enough." Carter nodded, though he knew it was just a recording. "What? Pushed us over the edge?" he asked aloud, not expecting an answer, but Martinez seemed to anticipate his question. "Ambassador Palmer discovered something yesterday. The Vorlani have been playing us. While they stalled the talks with endless debates about minor points, they've been positioning fleets near Alpha Centauri, Tau Ceti, and our other main colony worlds." Carter felt a cold anger replace his fatigue. The Vorlani, who had presented themselves as the most reasonable of the alien delegations, had been preparing for military action all along. "What they don't understand," Martinez continued, her voice hardening, "is that we've been holding back. Operation Hammer of Dawn is now active. May God have mercy on them because we certainly won't." The hologram flickered off, leaving Carter alone with his thoughts. He walked back to the viewport. Earth was no longer visible. Instead, he could see Mars glowing rust-red in the distance. Humanity's first colony, the first step on a journey that had led them here, to this moment of decision. The other species thought humans were primitive, volatile, and dangerous. They were about to discover just how right they were. Carter opened the ship's intercom. "Lieutenant Kelly, arrange a final meeting with the Confederation representatives. I have a message to deliver." "Yes, sir. When would you like it scheduled?" "Immediately. This won't take long." An hour later, Carter stood before the alien delegates in the ship's conference room. 12 different species represented, each more alien than the last. The Araxian delegate, Ambassador Zex, towered over the others, his multiple eyes blinking in different patterns. The Vorlani representative, Varn Krell, hummed with inner light, his crystalline body refracting the room's lighting. The Nidari delegate sat motionless, antennae twitching occasionally. "Esteemed representatives," Carter began, not feeling the respect his words implied, "I come before you with a message from Earth's united government." He paused, looking each delegate in the eyes or whatever passed for eyes among their species. After 7 years of negotiations, Earth has decided to withdraw from all talks with the Galactic Confederation. Effective immediately, all diplomatic ties are severed. A ripple of reactions passed through the room. The Nidari's antennae went rigid. The Vorlani's glow intensified. "Surely this is a negotiating tactic," Zex said, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. "The humans cannot possibly survive without Confederation protection and guidance." Carter kept his face neutral, though he wanted to laugh. Protection? From what? The only threats humanity had faced in recent decades came from the very species who claimed to be protecting them. This is not a tactic, Ambassador. This is a final decision. Additionally, all Confederation vessels are hereby banned from human-controlled space. Any unauthorized entry will be treated as an act of war. Now the room erupted in shouting, clicks, and electronic communications. The translator devices struggled to keep up with the cacophony. "You cannot do this," Varnkrell's voice cut through the noise. "Your species is barely a century into space travel. Without our guidance, you will destroy yourselves or worse." Carter smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We managed to survive for thousands of years without your guidance, Ambassador. I suspect we'll continue to do so." "This is about the fleet movements, isn't it?" Varnkrell said, his crystalline form dimming slightly. "That was merely a precautionary measure. We have concerns about human aggression." "Is that what you call it?" Carter replied, his voice now ice-cold. "Positioning warships near our colonies, while pretending to negotiate in good faith?" The room fell silent. The Vorlani delegate seemed to shrink. "This meeting is over," Carter said. "You have 24 hours to leave human space. After that, we cannot guarantee your safety." As he turned to leave, Ambassador Zex called out, "You will regret this, human. The Confederation does not take kindly to threats." Carter paused at the door and looked back at the assembled aliens. "That's where you're wrong, Ambassador. This isn't a threat." He let his words hang in the air for a moment before delivering the final line. "It's a promise." As the door closed behind him, Carter heard the room erupt again. Let them argue, he thought. It no longer mattered. Humanity had endured enough condescension, enough manipulation, enough lies. The talking was over. Now would come action, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months passed after Earth's withdrawal from the talks. For 90 days, human space remained quiet. Too quiet, according to the Araxian Military Council. "The humans are hiding behind their borders," Fleet Commander Kraz told the Araxian. "High Command. They talk boldly but lack the courage to face the consequences of their actions." The six-eyed alien gestured to a holographic display showing Proxima Centauri, humanity's first colony beyond the solar system. "Our intelligence shows minimal defenses. The humans have only a small outpost there with outdated technology. I propose we send a fleet to secure the system. This will show them and the rest of the Confederation what happens when lesser species defy us." The High Command agreed. 20 Araxian warships, each the size of a small city, set course for Proxima Centauri. They expected an easy victory against what they considered an inferior species. They couldn't have been more wrong. Commander Diane Foster stood on the bridge of the human stealth destroyer Relentless, watching the main screen as the Araxian fleet arrived. At 42, Foster had spent half her life in the military. She had fought in the Mars Rebellion alongside Admiral Carter and had been handpicked for this mission. The Relentless was hidden in the shadow of one of Proxima's outer planets, along with 49 other human warships. The Araxians had no idea they were there. The aliens passed right by them, their sensors detecting nothing. "All ships report ready, Commander," said her executive officer, Commander Alan Rodriguez. At 35, he was younger than Foster but just as experienced. "The Araxians have passed the outer marker," reported Lieutenant Samantha Wright from the tactical station. "They're heading straight for the colony." Foster nodded, her brown eyes fixed on the screen. The Araxian ships moved with confidence, not bothering with any defensive formation. They clearly expected no resistance. "They think they're hunters," Foster said quietly to Rodriguez. "They've forgotten that humans were hunters too, long before we built cities or wrote books." Rodriguez smiled grimly. They're about to get a history lesson. Foster turned to address the bridge crew. The Confederation thinks we're backward. They think we've been showing them everything we have during these 7 years of talks. Today, we show them how wrong they are. She settled back into the command chair and took a deep breath. All ships, this is Commander Foster. Commence Operation Broken Gate. Throughout the Proxima system, 50 human warships decloaked simultaneously. The technology that made this possible had been developed in secret laboratories on Earth and Mars. While human diplomats smiled and nodded at Confederation demands, human scientists had worked tirelessly to surpass alien technology. On the Araxian flagship, alarms blared as sensors suddenly detected dozens of human vessels surrounding them. Impossible, Fleet Commander Kraz shouted. Where did they come from? How did they hide from our sensors? Before the Araxians could react, the human fleet opened fire. But they weren't using the primitive laser weapons the Confederation had observed in previous human ships. Instead, blue-white beams of concentrated gravitational energy, graviton, lances, shot from the human vessels. This was technology the Confederation believed was centuries beyond human capabilities. Yet the humans had not only mastered it but improved upon it. The graviton lances tore through Araxian shields like they were made of paper. 5 Araxian ships exploded in the first volley alone. Enemy vessels are attempting to regroup, reported Lieutenant Wright. They're trying to form a defensive sphere. Foster nodded. Continue the attack. Target their engines and weapons only. I want to minimize casualties. Despite Foster's orders, the battle was brutal. The Araxians fought bravely, but were completely outmatched by weapons and technology they didn't understand. They're attempting to retreat, Rodriguez announced 15 minutes into the battle. Most of the Araxian fleet was now damaged or destroyed. Foster studied the tactical display. Let 3 ships escape, she ordered. They need to deliver our message. Commander? Rodriguez looked surprised. If we destroy them all, the Confederation might think it was some kind of accident or natural disaster. I want survivors to tell them exactly what happened here. I want them to know who did this and how easily we did it. Rodriguez nodded in understanding. Yes, Commander. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. 17 Araxian vessels destroyed, 3 fleeing in terror back to Confederation space. The human fleet had suffered no losses. Foster stood from her chair and walked to the viewport. She could see the wreckage of Araxian ships floating in space, emergency pods ejecting from damaged vessels. Human rescue ships were already moving to pick up survivors. Send word to Earth Command, she told Rodriguez. Phase 1 complete. At Ida, the same moment Foster's fleet was engaging the Araxians. Throughout the galaxy, human operatives activated dormant systems that had been secretly installed in key Confederation facilities. On the Vorlani homeworld, their central quantum communication network suddenly went offline. On the massive space station that served as the Confederation's main trading hub, computer systems crashed and refused to restart. At the Nidari military headquarters, secure communication channels were flooded with human music, a particularly annoying Earth song about never giving someone up or letting them down. All across Confederation space, the message was the same. Humanity had been playing a long game. While smiling at the diplomatic table, they had been infiltrating alien systems, studying alien technology, and preparing for this day. In his office on Earth, Admiral Carter received the reports from Proxima Centauri and the other operations. He nodded in grim satisfaction. The first stage of humanity's response was complete. Now the galaxy would learn what happened when you cornered a species that had spent most of its evolutionary history as both predator and prey. A species that had clawed its way up from caves to the stars through countless wars, disasters, and challenges. The aliens were about to learn a painful lesson about humanity. The most dangerous animal isn't the one that roars the loudest. It's the one you don't see coming until it's too late. The Great Hall of the Galactic Confederation on Vorlan Prime buzzed with panic. Representatives from 37 species had gathered for an emergency session of the High Council. The room, normally orderly and quiet, now echoed with angry voices, frightened clicks, and electronic wails. Supreme Counselor Zexitara of the Nidari Collective pounded his chitinous limb on the central table. The insectoid alien's antennae twitched with rage. "Silence," he demanded, his translator device making his alien voice understandable to all present. "This council will come to order." Gradually, the room quieted, though the tension remained thick, enough to cut with a blade. 3 days ago, Zexitara continued, an Araxian fleet was nearly destroyed in the Proxima Centauri system. Our communication networks across 12 systems have been compromised. Our trading hubs are in chaos. And all of this was done by humans. He spat the last word like it tasted bad in his mouth. "How is this possible?" he demanded, looking around the chamber. "The humans were supposed to be centuries behind us technologically. We monitored their development. We guided their progress. We controlled what technology they could access." Ambassador Varn Krell of the Vorlani stood, his crystalline form shimmering with agitation. Light rippled through his transparent body as he spoke. "Our intelligence indicated they had barely mastered basic faster-than-light travel," he said, his voice like tinkling glass. "Yet they possess stealth technology that renders our sensors useless and weapons that penetrate our strongest shields." An Araxian representative, his purple skin pale with fear, rose next. "The survivors of the attack report that human ships appeared from nowhere. Their weapons—" He paused, struggling to continue. "Their weapons were beyond anything we believed they could create. My brothers died in seconds." More voices joined in, each reporting new human activities throughout Confederation space. Ships appearing where they shouldn't be able to go, communications intercepted that should have been secure. Human agents discovered in places they never should have reached. Suddenly, the council chamber fell silent as the main doors slid open with a soft hiss. A lone figure walked in, a human male dressed in simple gray clothing. Dr. Nathan Hayes, former human scientific liaison to the Confederation, walked slowly to the center of the chamber. The aliens had assumed all humans had returned to Earth, space. Yet here one stood, in the heart of their government. "How did you get in here?" demanded Zexitara. "This session is closed to outside species." Hayes smiled. He was older than most human representatives, with gray hair and lines around his eyes, but he moved with easy confidence. "I've had access to this chamber for years," he said calmly, "just as we've had access to most of your secure facilities." He pulled a small device from his pocket and activated it. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. "You misunderstand my species at a fundamental level," Hayes said, his voice echoing in the silent chamber. "Throughout our history, humans have advanced fastest when threatened. You thought you were dealing with naive newcomers to the galactic stage. In reality, we were assessing your capabilities, learning your weaknesses, and preparing for the possibility that diplomacy might fail." The holographic display shifted, showing a map of the galaxy. Areas in blue represented what the Confederation had believed was human-controlled space. Then the display changed, with red areas appearing throughout the galaxy. 3 times more territory than the blue had shown. "This is the true extent of human settlement," Hayes explained. "Colonies, outposts, and research stations established far beyond the borders we disclosed to you." Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. "While our diplomats kept you distracted with negotiations, our scientists reverse-engineered every piece of technology we encountered. Our military established bases in systems you believed uninhabited, and our intelligence agents, like myself, infiltrated every level of your society." An Araxian counselor jumped to his feet. "This is an act of war. The Confederation will not stand for such deception." Hayes didn't even blink at the outburst. "You're mistaken, Counselor. The war already began 7 years ago when you decided to treat humans as children to be controlled rather than equals to be respected." The council erupted in shouts and threats, but Hayes continued undeterred. "Every time you demanded we limit our expansion, we expanded further. Every time you restricted technology sharing, we developed our own versions, often better than yours. Every time you spoke down to our representatives, we planted more listening devices in your offices." He activated another display, showing Real-time footage of human fleets moving into position around key Confederation worlds. Not attacking, simply demonstrating that they could. The Council fell silent again, this time in horror. 7 years ago, humanity was indeed behind many of your species technologically, Hayes admitted. But you made a critical error. You studied our technology but not our history. If you had, you would have seen that humans have overcome every obstacle placed in our path. We survived ice ages with stone tools. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We reached space using computers less powerful than the translator devices you're wearing now. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, or eye equivalents, of each council member. For 7 years you treated us like children, attempting to contain and control us. Now you face the consequences of your arrogance. Hayes reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data cube, which he placed on the central table. The humans I represent offer you one chance, he said. This contains our terms. Recognize our sovereignty. End all attempts to restrict our development. Establish truly equitable relations between our civilizations. Otherwise, the demonstration at Proxima Centauri will seem merciful by comparison. With that, Hayes turned and walked toward the door. No one moved to stop him. As he reached the exit, Supreme Counselor Zexitera found his voice again. And if we refuse these terms? Hayes paused but didn't turn around. Then you will learn why, throughout our history, humans have been both the most cooperative and most destructive species on our planet. We can be your greatest allies or your worst nightmare. The choice is yours. As Hayes departed, leaving the council in stunned silence, he tapped a small device on his wrist and transmitted a simple message back to Earth. Phase 3 complete. They finally understand what they're dealing with. 6 weeks after Dr. Hayes' ultimatum, the Confederation was in crisis. Trade routes were disrupted by the human blockade. Several member species were facing resource shortages. The military leadership was in disarray after discovering that their secure communications had been compromised for years. In desperation, the Vorlani and Araxians formed a secret coalition with 5 other species. If they couldn't outmaneuver the humans diplomatically or technologically, they would use overwhelming force. Together, they assembled the largest fleet in Confederation history, over 2,000 warships, and set course for Earth itself. We will end this human rebellion once and for all, declared Fleet Lord Thrax of the Araxians. They may have advanced technology, but they cannot stand against our combined might. What they didn't know was that the humans had expected this response. In fact, they had counted on it. As the massive fleet approached the Sol system, they detected no human defenses, no ships moving to intercept them. Victory seemed assured. Then, as they passed the orbit of Neptune, hundreds of automated defense platforms activated, unleashing weapons that defied known physics. Simultaneously, quantum entanglement devices attached to their ships by human infiltrators triggered, disabling propulsion systems throughout the fleet. From the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, Captain Lisa Reeves watched the enemy fleet grind to a halt. All units immobilized, Captain, reported Lieutenant Gregory Nichols. The harvesters are in position. Reeves nodded. Begin. Throughout the paralyzed fleet, specially designed human ships, the harvesters, moved into position. Rather than destroying the enemy vessels, they began systematically disassembling them, capturing crew members, and salvaging technology. On Earth, President Catherine Winters addressed the United Nations Security Council. Today we demonstrate to the galaxy that humanity cannot be subjugated through force. The captured enemy personnel will be treated according to our laws of war, but their ships will become the foundation of our expanded defense network. The message should be clear. Each attempt to attack us will only make us stronger. 1 year after the failed invasion of Sol, representatives from all 37 Confederation species gathered on Luna, Earth's moon. This time, they came not as conquerors or superiors, but as equals seeking reconciliation. The meeting took place in the newly constructed Harmony Dome, with Earth visible through the transparent ceiling, a deliberate reminder of what was at stake. The blue-green planet hung in the black sky, beautiful and now undeniably powerful. Inside the dome, humans and aliens sat together at a circular table. No species was placed higher than another. No special seats or privileges existed for older civilizations. President Catherine Winters opened the proceedings, flanked by Admiral Carter and Dr. Hayes. She wore a simple white suit, her gray hair pulled back neatly. For generations, the Confederation operated on principles of paternalism and control, she said, her voice calm but firm. New species were expected to accept their assigned place in a hierarchy they had no part in creating. Today we establish a new paradigm. The human delegation presented their vision, a restructured interstellar community based on mutual respect and genuine cooperation. No species would dictate to another. Technology would be shared rather than hoarded. Colonization rights would be established through fair negotiation, not power politics. You feared our potential and sought to contain it, Winters continued. In doing so, you nearly triggered your own destruction. Humanity doesn't seek dominance. We seek partnership. But we will never again tolerate attempts to restrict our growth or threaten our security. Around the table, alien representatives listened carefully. Many still bore the psychological scars of humanity's demonstration of power. The Araxians, once proud and dismissive of humans, now seemed smaller somehow. The Vorlani, whose crystalline forms normally glowed brightly, seemed dimmer in the presence of the species they had underestimated. Supreme Counselor Zexaterra, who had once dismissed humans as barely civilized primates, now stood in humbled acknowledgement. We misjudged humanity in every possible way, the Nidari admitted, antennae drooping slightly. We saw your diplomatic flexibility as weakness, your curiosity as naivety, your diversity as division. We failed to recognize that these apparent contradictions were actually your greatest strengths. The new Galactic Charter was signed that day, a document that would reshape interstellar relations for centuries to come. The humans had not only earned their place among the stars, but had fundamentally changed how species interacted with one another. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Carter stood at the viewport, watching delegates from dozens of worlds mingling with human representatives. Children from Earth schools had been invited to the ceremony, and now they asked wide-eyed questions of aliens who, just months ago, had been enemies. "Do you think it will last?" asked Dr. Hayes, joining Carter at the window. Carter's expression remained stern. "Peace built on respect lasts longer than peace built on fear, but we must remain vigilant." Hayes nodded. "They've learned to fear us. Now they need to learn to respect us for more than our strength." Carter turned to face the crowded chamber, where the future of galactic civilization was taking shape. "For their sake, I hope they do."